When we're searching for things to do during the holiday season, we want the perfect blend of memorable experiences and feeling like we're supporting the locals who create those experiences. So, what does that look like in small rural towns like Blairgowrie and Rattray? My name's Kyle and we're coming home for another holiday special. A collaboration with Scotland's people, a magical mystery tour into the heart of rural life to discover, well, the magic. Come along. In this episode, we'll indulge in a visit to this quirky local gift shop.
Hi Kyle, come in. I'm Sarah, and this is my little helper here, Shorty, my alpaca.
I never thought for once in Blairgowrie I would dress in alpaca, but here we go. Here we go. I can put this tutu on me. I'm not that brave. And why she believes it's more important than ever to support our local shops on the high street.
If we don't use the shops that we've got in Blair or explore the shops we've got in Blair, we're just going to end up like a ghost town with nobody coming in and no community anymore.
Then we'll explore the Blairgowrie Christmas market. Before meeting up with our retired Blairgowrie High School history teacher.
Hello Kyle, it's nice to see you again.
I was last in your class as a student probably about 14 years ago.
You were very attentive as well. I can still picture you sitting there.
We'll discover the secret doorways hidden in plain sight, which once provided the entrances to many of Rattray's 18th and 19th century high street shops.
The thing that fascinates people about history is its human story.
And the fascinating story of his grandfather in this historic photograph.
They know they are kind of skilled, or certainly semi-skilled artisans.
We are in Blairgowrie's High Street. This is a street that's built upon generations of family-run local shops and lots of stories. If we take a look around, we can see that there's lots of Christmas decorations in the windows this year, from the Cornerstone Deli to local craft shops, jewellers, gift shops, pet shops, you name it. The community definitely looks like it's in good spirits. When we think about community, we think of places like Blairgowrie's Dome Restaurant, a historic B-listed building serving local, family-friendly food since 1905.
I mean, it's a unique building in terms of the architecture, the design, the furniture, but it has such a strong sense of community, which brings the magic alive, really.
And independent women-led local craft stores like Sarah Cave Silversmith.
I feel that I've landed on my feet. It's a really nice community, lots going on, made friends easily and lots of friends, and So I really like Blairgowrie as a place to live. It's a great place to bring kids up. There's plenty for them to do. It's big enough that there's lots going on, but small enough that you feel like part of the community.
The high streets of a Scottish town or village is where we find the ultimate community. Local high street stores are bouncing back, partly because those who support local, from casuals to obsessives, are realising how much they need that connection, that space, that place. Who better to explore that theme than Sarah, the lady who owns and operates a local family-run business, Diva, with her sidekick Shorty. Let's go inside.
Hi Kyle, come in. I'm Sarah. This is my shop Diva. As you can see, it's quite full of stuff at the minute, coming up for Christmas time, so I'll give you a little tour. These are all my scarves. This is the most popular thing I would say in the shop just now. You've got your pashminas, your lightweight ones. This is all my costume jewellery. So there's a mixture of silver plate and rose plate gold jewellery in this cupboard. Lots of different bracelets. They're always very popular. And over here I have my snoozies and my little card room. These cards are predominantly from an artist called Daniel Mackey. He's won lots of different awards, and each little card comes with a small story on the back telling you why he's got the inspiration or what the animal means to him. So they're lovely. Then we have another jewellery cabinet here. Again, this is all costume jewellery. Lots of different designs. This one's inspired by nature. These candles are all really lovely, have really gorgeous scents, and they all have all these little sparkles in the top, which really glows when the candle is lit. This is my favourite thing at the minute. These are called lithophanes. They're porcelain domes that when you put a wee light underneath, the whole thing pops. And there's some Christmas designs and some non-Christmassy ones up here. Then just following around, this is all my giftware, especially Christmassy bits just now. Lots of little glass Christmas trees and baubles. Loads of lights. I love lights. The house is lit up like Blackpool illuminations at this time of year. And then over here is all my babies range. So gifts from birth right up to sort of 1-2 years old. And then in the cabinet here I have a lot of silver studs, little girls' earrings, and that's my shop.
How did Shorty the alpaca end up in your window or even in your shop? How did you come about it?
It was during lockdown and I had very little stock. Window was quite bare, and my rep, who knows I like alpacas, messaged me a link and said, look what we've got. Took her home to start with, and my dog went mad. Kids wanted to keep her, and brought her up to the shop, stuck her in the window, and within the first 2 days I had hundreds of comments. Everybody wanted to know where I got her, if she was for sale, could they buy her. Tourists were crossing the road to come and see her. So then it became a bit of a thing. My friend's little girl was desperate to decorate her, so she spent the afternoon with me putting her in a New Hill outfit that we had fashioned together for going back to school in August. And then today you're now going to help transform her into an elf for Christmas.
I never thought for once in Blairgowrie I would dress an alpaca, but here we go. Here we go.
I have 4.
So we've got some sockies. All right. So just any way up?
Yep, any way up.
So you've got them right on your wrist?
Yeah.
You've got them on your wrist like that. All right. Well, look at this. We're getting somewhere. I'm putting the socks on. What do you think of that? Do you think that's quite good? We're professional sock. What would you call? What kind of job would you give that? You could, because you know you can put like socks on horses. You can dress them. An alpaca sock person. I'm trying to be so delicate here as well. I don't want to break the alpaca's leg. We've got double tutus. There you go.
Very elfy vibe.
I can put this tutu on me. We could go to the Christmas market like this.
Both of us together.
Yes. We could just be. I'm not that brave. Oh, well, we put. My instinct is telling me red on top.
Red.
Do you put the legs in it? Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
There we go. Oh, we can see the alpaca's bum. And I'm getting my mic muddled up in it.
No.
This is looking fine. I love this. So I've got to use my scarf. Putting on my scarf skills here. What are you thinking? How does that look from the front? This one's a bit further down that side. That is very festive. A very festive alpaca. We've got an elf hat.
Need to pin that on. Over the ear.
Put it over the ears? Over one ear? How's that?
Yeah, I think
What does that
that's
look?
looking quite.
I feel really honoured to be able to be part of the first Christmas with the Alpaca, with Shorty the Alpaca. This is our first Christmas together. Thank you very much for showing me
Thank you for
how to
help.
dress the alpaca. Hopefully I've made a good enough job. Maybe I can get rehired next year, you know. Who knows? So how far does Diva's history go back in Blairgowrie? How long have you been here for?
I have taken over the shop from my mum in 2018, Sheila. She opened it, she retired after 25 years. So I think all in all, we've been in the town for 28 years now in various different locations throughout the time. I'd obviously had the shop nearly a year running really well before COVID kicked in and lockdown happened. And the first lockdown, just before the first lockdown, was really difficult. I would have said the Christmas had been really good. January and February are always quiet, but they were horrific. It was so quiet. And it got to the stage that I really thought, this is it, I'm going to have to shut the door.
You mentioned you went completely home delivery. You took photos of all of your stock and then you put them online, and then people would simply, say, oh, we've got a birthday coming up, we've got things coming up, and you when did you say you got up in the morning?
There was the weekend before Mother's Day. And I think that week I was going out at 7 o'clock in the morning, delivering to people's houses in my car. The weekend was just absolutely crazy. And then it just spiraled from then, and folk were messaging me, I've got a birthday, I've got a wedding. I was up and down the shop, I was coming in and out. Folk just really wanted me and appreciated that, to keep the shops in Blair, we need to support the shops in Blair, and everybody pulled through, and here I am, still here.
That was such a scary time, and I think now coming through all of that, we kind of get to see just how important supporting local businesses like yourself.
Definitely.
How does that make you feel? Like when you think about shopping locally, how important is that to you?
Just being able to have a chat face to face with somebody, I think it's really important to have that aspect of, just company and friendship for a better word as well. I've got such lovely loyal customers that some of them I've served. The little girls who bought earrings when they were sort of 6 or 7, they're now coming in with their 6 or 7-year-olds buying earrings. And it's that whole story of, if we don't use the shops that we've got in Blair or explore the shops we've got in Blair, we're just going to end up like a ghost town with nobody coming in and no community anymore.
No, that's brilliant. It's been such a pleasure to meet you and to be able to dress Shorty the alpaca. Hopefully I wasn't too bad at the dressing. But also to kind of learn about your story, and just to see firsthand how Diva is so important to not just one or two, but hundreds of people in Blair, because they come in and they're your loyal customers, and they come in and they support you year in, year out, especially through the pandemic. And I think it's such a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I'm deeply honoured to be able to do this with you.
It was lovely you coming in and sharing this with me today.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
If a high street can connect us with a community, local events in town centres can have the same effect. For decades, the Well Meadow has been the home of our favourite fairs, circuses and cattle markets across history. And in more recent times, we've seen the rise of farmers' markets, craft fairs and other seasonal events such as this Christmas market, which gives the locals and travellers a chance to come together and discover the magic. The Well Meadow is a special place for building community in so many extraordinary ways, and sometimes in ways we don't even think of. Sometimes it can be a local artist's handmade designs, the locals who planted the trees here. Or other times, all it takes is Santa and a wee wave that connects the community. And what's particularly interesting about the Christmas market in the Well Meadow is that it's a shared space with Rattray, and it has been for many, many years. But when we go back and actually find out that right here in Rattray, there was once a thriving high street complete with independent grocers and even a cinema, and to be able to still identify what all of those old shop entrances used to be, and to even just have that direct line to a community that came before us, that is pretty special. And who better to explore a piece of Rattray's history than John Howie, a retired Blairgowrie High School history teacher who's lived in Old Rattray for almost his entire life. Hi, John.
Hello, Kyle. It's nice to see you again.
It has been a long, long time since I was last in your class as a student, probably about 14 years ago?
I honestly lose track of that kind of time. So I'll take your word for that.
And
yes.
I remember myself being your favourite and most well-behaved student.
Oh, everybody says that. I had lots of pupils like that. Yes, but I do remember you as one of the quieter ones in the class.
Really?
Which, yes, I did appreciate that. You were very attentive as well. I can still picture you sitting there.
Really?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Oh, that's
You
really
do
nice.
remember these things. You know, you remember the room you were in. Because I changed my room a few times over the years. But I remember the room that you sat in, yes. Can't remember everybody in the class, but I can remember the makeup of it, yes.
Now, in your class, I can remember that everybody loved a particular lesson. There's a particular lesson that stands out, and it's the Iceman. Why do you think everybody loved this lesson of yours?
Yes. Well, we kept chopping and changing. We used that as an introduction to history, and we did establish that one for a good few years because it was popular and it worked well. But I mean, it wasn't hard and fast. We'd had something previous that we used, and we tried this because it became an event of European significance when they found the body in the Alps. And they originally thought it was a mountaineer or a skier or something. But it turned out, after a lot of scientific research, that it was indeed a very, very old body, going back to, post-Stone Age, but probably Bronze Age. I think the reason is because it was the story of a fellow human being. And at the end of the day, despite all the dates and all the objects, the artifacts and so on, the thing that fascinates people about history is its human story. It's human story.
Yes, and especially when it's almost like when you look back in history, it's humans frozen in time.
Yes, well, he certainly was.
Well, that's
Iceman,
true.
he certainly was. Frozen way up in the Alps for literally hundreds, in fact thousands of years.
That's true. What was his name again?
They called him Ötzi.
Ötzi.
Ötzi. O T-Z-I. It's an Austrian name, I think.
Ah, right.
Yes. The Austrians claimed him, but in fact they discovered later on the body was a few yards inside the Italian border.
Right.
So it's a bit of a dispute about that.
And how long have you been retired now, and what keeps you busy?
Well, I've been retired 10 years, and it doesn't seem like 10 years I've done so much. I've got a house to look after, quite an old house with a lot of history in it, which is nice. I do a lot of gardening. I developed that passion from my parents. They were fanatical gardeners. So I grow a lot of vegetables, and I like the flowers and roses too. I have a lot of outside interests. Over the years, I've done a lot of tour guiding, but I've stopped that, partly because of the pandemic. I do quite a lot of individual sport. I go to the gym. I've learnt to swim since I retired because I had a lifetime sphere of water. I have a lot of church connections as well, and a lot of musical connections. So I keep pretty busy.
And recently you've rediscovered an old photograph that has your grandfather in it. When was this photograph taken, and why do you think this photograph is so interesting?
Yes, it's a very appealing photograph actually. We don't know the exact date of it, but I mean my grandfather was born in 1875 and he's into early middle age by the time of this photo. So he'd already been married for quite a time and definitely probably had 4 or 5 of his children by that time, because he had a family of 10 eventually. It's definitely pre-First World War. I would imagine that it's an approximate date would be about 1910 or 1912, I think.
These people, do you think they have a bit of pride to be working there alongside your grandfather?
Well, that's another interesting thing about this photo is the individuals. I mean, there's a group of 8 of them, and you know, I often ask people to pick up the photo and tell me what they think, you know, because you can read so much into it. I mean, my grandfather was a businessman on a small scale, and he employed at least 7 people, as you can see from this photograph. I think the photograph, reading a little bit into my grandfather, having studied his life, I think he was trying to promote his business. So I think there's a hint of that in this photograph, that it may well be why the photograph was taken. And yes, when you look at them, some are standing, some are sitting, but they definitely give the impression that they are pretty satisfied with their lot, I would say. My grandfather looks a very contented individual, so I think in that sense he felt he was getting established. And the other ones round about him, his employees, they definitely have the bearing of people that are very happy indeed to be doing the work they're doing and to be employed by this man. It comes across.
And we can see on the floor there, you've got what seems to be spare parts of a mechanical, maybe a car or something?
Yes. He was an early, he operated an early garage, right, that serviced and repaired early motor cars.
Okay.
Yes, that's what he did. And this has been taken outside his premises.
Is his business still there today?
Well, the lane on one side of which the business was situated, the lane is still there. I think it's called Park Terrace, just off the Rattray Common. And the business was on the west side of the lane. So this is part of the west side. And you can see part of a wall in the photograph on the left-hand side of it. And if you walk down that lane, I believe that original wall is still there. Right. Yes, you can also see some of the lintels and so on where the doorways were. I get the impression they may well also have had a forge or a foundry in here and been able to make many of the parts themselves, although I think maybe they bought some as well. But I think they probably made and mended where they could.
Wow, so they were very self-sufficient then. They were able to rely.
They tried to be.
Yeah.
They tried to be. It also hints that they had a variety of skills too. And I think that is another part of the bearing of the people. They know they are kind of skilled, or certainly semi-skilled artisans.
Now we're really getting into the...
You're getting into the hub of New Rotary.
What kind of businesses were there?
Round about the junction with Balmoral Road, the buildings on either side of the street show that there had been quite a range of smaller, maybe family-run retail businesses there. The most obvious one would be on the downside, on the east side. It's into houses now, but for a very long time that was a very thriving and very important bakery business. If you go down the lane at the side, you'll just see some evidence of where the quite extensive bakery had been behind the shop.
And even next door to that, there used to be a grocer's there, right? Next door?
Next door, heading towards Boat Brae, there was a range of businesses in there. I always knew it as a kind of a grocer's business, and it did become the Rattray Post Office for a while too. But before that, I'm led to believe that round about the time of the Second World War, just before and just after, it was a kind of haberdasher's business. A lady operated it, selling a range of goods, possibly clothing, but certainly wool and sewing materials and so on. There was certainly 3 shops at least on the other side of the road. I'm a bit hazy as to exactly what each was. I think there's only one business operating there now, and that's a dog grooming business. Mm-hmm. But next to that, the other 2 properties are now closed. But I know that one of these other properties was a thriving butcher's business for quite a long time. And
do you think when we contribute something of ourselves to the community that it helps us to experience what I've heard you refer to as often the 3 L's, life, love and laughter?
Undoubtedly. I mean, this is an aspect of life in the 21st century that presents a little bit concern to many people, because I think we're losing the very strong and binding sense of community that was more prevalent in earlier ages. And I think community sense was very strong before and after and during the First World War. They were all being supported by businesses like my grandfather's. Yes, so I think society on a local level was much more cohesive and much more supportive maybe than it is nowadays.
What is the story behind life, love and laughter that you've shared before? What's the sort of rough sort of outline of it?
Well, it's so easy for people to take life for granted. We don't know how long we have. I mean, my grandfather ended up having a comparatively short life because he didn't come back from the First World War at the end in 1918. And he was, at that time, he was about 43 years old. You know, so living a worthwhile life, living a productive life, living, dare I say, a non-selfish life, a life that considers others as well as oneself. And it's really only by doing that that you get the other 2 things in good measure. If you do that, then you are also practicing a form of love, and a love that is shared within your family, your extended family, and within your community. That gives you a sense of well-being and security. And if you have that, then I think you're ready for some humour as well. And not take yourself or life too seriously, but be ready to enjoy a laugh now and again too.
So all of these unique stories are the seeds of everything our high streets become. And held within them, we discover our community's greatest magic. That people can build high streets that aren't all about buying stuff, but rather the places that we can all experience life, love, and laughter. So, until next time, happy holidays, stay local, and remember that the world is at your feet.